All right. Well, I read a really interesting little story this week about a lady that was taking self-hypnosis classes. And the instructions in this particular week were to go home and practice, right? We hear that here all the time. Take this stuff home and practice. So she did, and she came back the next week, and she's not really happy. And the instructor asked her what had happened, and she said, well, I was doing these practices for weight loss, and I gained 5 pounds. And the instructor said, really, tell me about your process. What did you do? And she said, well, I did what we were talking about in class. I got relaxed, and then I did the induction portion. And she said, well, what suggestions did you use? What suggestion questions or comments did you use? And she said, just what you did in class. I said, my shoulders are getting heavier. My arms are getting heavier. My legs are getting heavier. So it's not always the principle that we should doubt, but perhaps our application of the principle, yes? Yeah, I thought that was a very revealing story, a very revealing story. So today we're going to continue our month-long exploration. It's all about consciousness. It's all about consciousness. And we're talking about what is consciousness? Are we in it? Is it in us? Is it something that we can expand and grow? We're always hearing that, expand your consciousness. Well, we're just looking at that this month. And in the Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes tells us that consciousness, the definition just starts off mental awareness. Mental awareness. He has a lot more in there, which you can go home and read in the text, but that first key phrase, mental awareness. And then other definitions say that it's a perception, awareness or perception of something, awareness by the mind of itself and the world. So it's a little ethereal, but yet we all have it, don't we? We're kind of born with it. It's not something that we learn, we just have it. It's almost like consciousness is life itself. It's life itself. And then, of course, there are many people who study consciousness all the time, not only from the spiritual and theological standpoint, but also the medical and the philosophical. So there's a lot of different ways and perspectives to look at it, but the most common definition is this an idea of awareness and how we're aware of life itself. So the first week we started off talking about what are you looking at? What are you looking at? And it was based on the idea of what we focus on expands. And we started talking about this idea about a year ago with Pam Grout's beautiful work on E squared and how we were doing some of those experiments and looking at how what we focused on expanded in our life. We started with some cars, I think it was. And we've been practicing this throughout the year. So we looked at it last week, and I gave you first week, and I gave you a couple of tips on how to implement and use this powerful idea in your life. And then we also started our 30-day mental challenge. That was on May 1st, and that 30-day mental challenge was written about by one of the columnists in the Science of Mind magazine, Mitch Horowitz, and he took that from William James, who said, direct your attention to what is good and useful and ignore the rest, which goes along with that Science of Mind principle that we focus on what we want to see more of and ignore what we don't want to see. So we took this mental challenge, and we agreed that we would resolve to impose definite restrictions on our thoughts for 30 days. Thinking of the past, dwelling only on the pleasing incidents in the past. Thinking on the present, we direct our attention to the desirable, and into the future, regarding every worthy and possible ambition as within our reach. So if you didn't take the challenge with us on the first and you have an interest in doing so, it's up on our website. You can download the form. You can start today and do your 30-day challenge along with us. Now, for those who did start it, are you having any results? Yeah? I'm having lots of opportunities to look anew and redirect my focus onto that which I want to see more of. And it's interesting, isn't it, how as we do that, we continue to see deeper and deeper layers where we think we're focusing on something and then something wiggles in there. It's like, oh, but I'm really looking at the lack part of that, how that's not in my life. How that's not in my life. So it's kind of a fun thing. So I invite you to send your stories, send your observations, Rev Jill at scottsdalecsl.org. I'd love to hear your stories. Last week, bless you. Last week, we went to celebrating the Divine Feminine in all of us in honor of Mother's Day. And this was really about God is all there is. God is all there is, and we are that unity and that wholeness of the one. And a couple of the tips that we talked about last week. Our daily meditation is not a selfish act, and it's not just about us. It's for our planet. It's for all of us, because as we do our meditation, we are touching that one mind and in that one consciousness and that awareness. And we talked last summer about how in our stewardship of our planet, and America in particular, that when our country was first formed, slavery was okay. It was okay. Until it wasn't. Until the consciousness of the country elevated and raised to a sufficient place where it was no longer okay. And the same thing with women's voting rights. It was okay until it wasn't okay. And we're seeing that today in our gay and lesbian community, where things were okay are not okay anymore. And we're seeing the scrambles, right? And we've got an opportunity to step in and focus on what we want more of. Focus on a world that works for all. Focus on inclusivity and not the resistance and not the fighting against. So those are some opportunities that we look at in our meditation practice and how we can be a power for good on the planet. So we said also change your thinking. And of course that's one of our tenets of Science of Mind, change your thinking, change your life. And anybody know anybody or ever have a habit of saying no before you say yes? Uh-huh. Yeah. No, can't do that. Can't do that. No. Yeah, we've all experienced that. And when I realized I was doing that, it was a habit. I realized that it was resistance, it's control, it's not recognizing the divine in the other person. Because we're all divine beings of light and love and spirit. And we all have divine ideas that come through us. And when we share those, we may not be able to articulate them very well. So we don't understand them enough and they come across and we get a no. So rather than being that person that says no, be that person of opening that recognizes the spirit standing in front of you, expressing a divine idea, and rather than saying no, say, help me understand more. Tell me more. Tell me more. And continue to unravel that and become more of a yes person. Become more of a yes. Seek first to understand and then to be understood. So today we are moving into, as Kathy said, we create our own reality. Now this is a common mantra that we hear in the Science of Mind. We create our own reality. We create our own reality. And it can be empowering, can it? To think that we can create our own world. Through the power of our thoughts, through the power of our choice, we can create our own world. And we do say, change your thinking, change your life. And then we teach all these tools around that. Affirmation, affirmative prayer, meditation, journaling. We train licensed practitioners who can support us on the path through spiritual counseling, spiritual coaching, prayer. We have a lot of tools for application of this. And I am honored. I am so honored to bear witness to your transformations in your life and the stories that you share with me. The stories of kicking bad habits, negative thinking, from shifting beliefs from lack into prosperity and abundant flow, physical healings, and new jobs, to name just a few things that we have seen made manifest in this community. And I'm just honored to be sharing that with you. You're amazing. You're amazing. And I know that many of us still dance with those issues, don't we? We still dance with career. We still dance with our money. We still dance with relationship and health issues and what is this thing called God they talk about? We still have questions. And I'll tell you a secret. It never ends. There's always more of that onion to peel. There's always deeper to go. We can always go deeper, even when we think we've got it. There's always deeper to go. And yet this idea of creating our own reality can be disheartening, can't it? You know, I'm really, I don't even know the word, I was going to say challenged by when we hear or even think to ourselves, which is sometimes the worst, why did you bring that on yourself? Yeah, that's not empowering, is it? But yet that's sort of the opposite way when we say we create our own reality. Then when things happen that are not maybe empowering to us, it's like, well, what did I do to deserve this? Right? That doesn't feel so good. Because then we can go into guilt and shame and blame. And what's wrong with me? Why can't I manifest, have the relationship, the job, the career, the money, that walk with Spirit? What's wrong with me? Right? We can go there. So what can we do? Instead of going there, what can we do? How do we begin to move our consciousness, because it's all about consciousness, from questioning our self-worth, our self-worthiness? How can we move that into this idea of transformation? Well, having witnessed many of yours and my own, I think the first step is willingness. Willingness to say, yeah, I'm willing to transform this. I'm willing to see this shift in my life. I'm willing to let go of everything that I've done or said or been or believed to this point that's gotten me here because I don't like here, and I'm willing to shift that. I'm willing to open to something new, to something different. I'm willing. Because when we recognize that God, universal law, that energy field, whatever we call that beingness of all life, when we recognize that it is willing, it is ready, and it is anxious to support us in whatever we endeavor. The question is, are we willing to receive that? Are we really willing to receive that? So all the transformations that I've seen in your lives have included that willingness to look at it differently, to accept a new thought, a new perspective. Oh, that wasn't something I'd ever considered. Maybe I'll try that. Maybe I'll try that. So are you willing, ready, and able? You ever heard that? Ready, willing, and able buyer means that the agent in real estate has delivered a prospect and that the seller owes a commission now, right? It's ready, willing, and able. Are you ready, willing, and able to receive? Are you ready, willing, and able to receive? Yeah. Norman Vincent Peale, he said, when people believe in themselves, they have the first secret of success. When they believe in themselves, they have the first secret of success. So embodying this idea of unity, of oneness, of wholeness, is step one. Do you believe that you are one in God? Do you believe that we are all connected in this oneness? When we can get ourselves to that point of really getting that, the rest of it's easy. If God is all there is and created all that is, that means God created each and every one of us and that we are a part of that same substance. And as such, we're in that unity. And as such, we just need to open to receive. Just need to open to receive. It is our divine birthright. It is our divine birthright. So we use affirmative prayer treatment as our most powerful tool of transformation. Ernest Holmes taught this over and over and over again in The Science of Mind. And it's the most powerful tool that we have. I was doing some reading in The Science of Mind this week, and came across his talking about how we don't hold a thought. We don't hold a good thought. As practitioners and ministers, we sometimes are asked, well, hold a good thought for me this week. And it's like, are you really asking me for prayer treatment? Or are you asking me to just hold positive thoughts? Because I hold positive thoughts all the time. But if you're asking for prayer treatment, that's different. That's an act of consciousness. And that's doing the work. And sometimes we don't necessarily do that work. We don't go the full length and the full distance of doing that work. And then what happens? We begin to doubt that prayer even works. Oh, it doesn't work. Because we've lost our confidence in it, because again, it's like the lady in the self-hypnosis. She wasn't applying the tool she was applying the tool correctly. It was just her words were not exactly correct. Right? Yeah. So when we do our affirmative prayer, what is that? It's an act of consciousness. It's speaking our word into this universal mind. And it is saying, what I am praying about is vital. It is real. It is worthy. And I am worthy of receiving it. So we're setting it up in consciousness at that point. We are worthy of having it. Have you ever been at a point where you're so low you can't even ask somebody to pray for you? Yeah. We get so wound up in our stuff that sometimes we just can't even ask for prayer. We think we have to fix it. We think we have to work it out ourselves. I've been there. And as soon as I get myself to the point where I can pick up that phone and call a practitioner and say, I need a prayer, it's like this whole burden lifts and everything clears up and the sky is blue again and the birds sing and it's like, okay. And then, why didn't I do this sooner? Why did I let myself suffer? Why didn't I do it sooner? And I think it's just our way our minds work sometimes, that we just allow ourselves to be there, face down on the carpet, right? So call a practitioner. Be willing. Open up. So this idea of prayer affirms that this is a right and true vision, whatever it is that we're praying for, because I commit my time, talent, and treasure to preparing the way for it to show up. Anybody have their own business? Anybody read stories about people that start their own businesses? They sell their home, they cash out, they move into a one-bedroom apartment, they use all of the capital they have, they borrow money from their families because they believe in this business idea so much. They're willing to commit their time, their talent, their treasure to its manifestation. That's what we're talking about. That level of belief in what your prayers are about. We have up here many of your goals for 2016. And anybody's welcome to put your goals in here if you would like in a self-addressed stamped envelope. And the practitioners and I are praying over these every week, all year, for their manifestation. But, it would be nice? Is it a wish? Or is it really a goal? Is it really a dream? Is it really something that empowers you? Or is it a wish? It would be nice if. Isn't there different energy in that? Wouldn't it be nice if? Yeah, I'd like to go on an exotic vacation. That'd be nice. And then there's this little voice that goes in your dreams. Yeah? Yeah, what's in there? What's in those? Time, talent, and treasure being dedicated to those being made manifest? Yeah. Yeah. It's like setting the table. Anybody ever had a dinner party? You decide the date, the time, you go to the store, you buy the food, you make the menu, you might clean the house, you might set the table, you light the candles, you turn on the music, and you await with expectancy the arrival of your guests. You know they're coming. They said they would. Everything's ready. You've set the table. You've prepared your home. You're ready to receive. You're just expecting it to arrive. Can we get ourselves there in consciousness, in our awareness of what it is that we seek to make manifest in our life? That same expectancy of just waiting for the doorbell to ring. Just waiting for the doorbell to ring. Sure, that's the level we get to when we begin to see things start to transform in our life. Ernest Holmes is very clear in The Science of Mind, and this is the first part of one of my favorite quotes that he has, where he says, "We should be careful to distinguish daydreaming and wistful wishing from really dynamic and creative treatment." Yeah, wistful wishing. Dreaming's great, imagining's awesome. But it's really about that dynamic and creative treatment. And again, the harmful part about not doing it in a dynamic way is that we begin to doubt that treatment works, because we aren't seeing it manifest in our life. So be aware of that. So are you ready to receive the good that you seek? Have you embodied it completely, that it is yours? Do you own it? Is it yours? Are you ready to receive it? Have you done the work in consciousness around, how's my life going to be different when this comes? How's my family going to be different when this comes? How's my bank account going to look differently when this comes? What am I going to be, who new is going to come into my life that I'll be talking to? Financial advisors, perhaps. Real estate people, perhaps. Other types of planners to assist me. Right? Am I ready, really, really ready to receive this? That's the work in our consciousness that we do. My moving day. Y'all know I moved? Yeah. My moving day was a very good example for me that I got to get real good and clear on this week. I had someone ask me last night if I loved my house. And I answered honestly, not yet. Not yet. I have felt like I'm living in someone else's home because I haven't nested and made it my own yet. I'm working on it, but I haven't done that quite yet. And then as I continued to peel that onion, I realized that on moving day, and I've shared this, I think, where I was standing on the driveway watching them unload pieces of furniture and going, I forgot about that, where's that going? And I go running back inside and I look around the house and go, oh, that'll have to go there. Ooh, where's that going? I forgot about that piece. Because I'd been out of my home for 14 days and had a few other things happening, and so I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared to receive my belongings back into this new space. So I was just putting stuff places. So I felt very unsettled for the first week until I was able to then move the furnishings around and get them placed to where, okay, this feels better. But I still haven't placed everything else yet, all the personal accessories and stuff. So I wasn't ready to receive my own belongings into this new home. I hadn't spent enough time in it to embody what that might be like or feel like. So it was a wonderful example for me of just something simple like that. You know, think about your dreams. Think about your goals. Think about your desires. Have you just spent the time in consciousness and really received these? And how you're going to live with them when they show up. Reverend Jane Beach, one of our favorite reverends in our New Thought movement, she says our feelings of personal self-worth are a setup for success. And it's kind of like what Wayne Dyer says, that when you believe it, you'll see it. You know, it's not when I'm successful, then I'll feel successful. No, when you feel successful, then you become successful. Then you become successful. We always get that cart before the horse, don't we? Got to remember it the other way. The work is in consciousness. So I have for us today my Reverend Jill's insights or tips for the week, whatever you want to call those. And our first one is quit telling your stories of limitation. Stop it. Right? Stop it. When I was in Dallas many, many years ago, I worked with a lady, and it was a strange time in Dallas. But her husband was a successful oil executive, and he divorced her and left her for a younger woman, and that was her story. That was her story that she led with and shared whenever she talked to anybody. And it was fascinating to watch that and hear that's how she now defined herself. She was a very successful, productive human being. Beautiful woman. She'd raised a beautiful family. They created a lovely home in Highland Park. She was quite smart. And yet she defined herself by that moment in time. Now, yes, it was a very painful, disruptive moment in her life, and my heart still aches for her and what she went through, but yet that became defining for her. It became defining. I know others who've had accidents that defined their life from that point forward. There was nothing before, and there's really been nothing after. So we create these points, they're painful sometimes. They can be positive too. I have other friends that have had very huge successes in their life, and they stop right there. Nothing ever changes. Their wardrobe, their clothing, their cars, nothing ever changes. They're stuck right there rather than continuing to grow and expand. So look at your stories. Look at your stories and how you're defining your life and those defining moments in your life. And is that all there is? Is that all there is to your existence on planet Earth? No. There's so much more. We're in infinite possibility here. We're in infinite possibility. So I invite you, quit telling those stories and open up to something that you want, tell a better story about. Number 2, feed yourself empowering stories. Our internet is a wonderful resource, is it not? You can find stories about everything on there. So if you're looking to manifest something in your life, read stories about people who have it. If you want a relationship, read stories about successful relationships. Long-term marriages. We have long-term marriages in our community. Talk to these people if that's something that you're interested in. They'll tell you how they did it. Sure, that's for me. That's for me. Science of Mind says that what's possible for anywhere is possible everywhere. If anyone can do it, everyone can do it. Stop complaining. Stop it, that's right. Not only about things outside of us, stop complaining about ourselves. Anybody do that? Once or twice? A day, maybe? Yeah, sure, we complain about ourselves. Why did you do that? Oh my gosh, I can't believe you did that. I can't believe you said that. Right? Stop complaining. And this is part of our 30-day mental challenge also. Stay on the affirmative side. When you catch yourself complaining, shift it. You know, traffic's my favorite one. And I have found, I've been an observer lately, that when I start complaining about traffic, I watch it just get so much worse because I've just put my order into the universe saying, I like this stuff, give me some more. But when I can shift that and go, okay, this is all for my perfect arrival time and it's going to be whatever, it starts to loosen up a little bit. My experience of traffic begins to change. So stop complaining. Number 4, practice. Notice when you're not owning your good, when you're pushing it away. And we hear this all the time. Someone will get a compliment or an appreciation, and they shrink away from it. Shrink away from it. I had a funny thing happen Friday night. I went to a show, and as I walked in, this lady, delightful usher little lady, she came up and she goes, "You look just like Susan Sarandon." And I said, "Well, thank you." And then she proceeded to tell everybody in the lobby, "Doesn't she look like Susan Sarandon? Doesn't she look like her?" Well, I've heard this before, and I'm like, thank you, thank you. Well, now, all these people are starting to stare. Now she stands up and takes me by the arm and walks me into the theater. "Doesn't she look like Susan Sarandon? Look at her, doesn't she look like Susan Sarandon?" And I had an opportunity to either shrink away and ask her to be still or just own it and be with it. And, I like, this is her experience. Okay, whatever. So I chose not to shrink away from it. And then this morning I was thinking, gosh, I missed an opportunity. I should have said, "I'm not Susan, but I am Reverend Jill Clements, and we have services on Sunday morning at 8600. So I missed an opportunity. Maybe next time. Maybe next time. So own your good. Own it when it comes to you. Own it. All right. Number 5 is make a list of 5 of your positive and best qualities, and keep it in your wallet for those times And life might be handing you lemons, and you need a little sugar to make some lemonade. That's your 5 positive traits of yourself. Just whip those out. When somebody's not being kind, okay, this is really true. Notice, however, what your small voice says when in those moments when you do that. Notice what your small voice says. Okay? So we want to make sure that we own that also. 4 and 5 go together. And then number 6, set your intention for the day. Every day. Set your intention for the day. Ernest Holmes tells us we should daily practice correct thinking. We should decide what we wish to have happen in our lives. We get to plant the seeds, don't we? So do we, get up and have our coffee and kind of wander through the day and see what's going to happen to us? Or do we set our intention and plant our seed in the ground for that day? Today I intend to be peaceful. Today I intend to be kind. Today I intend to experience joy in every person that I meet. Today I intend to help others. I intend to be a beneficial presence. Something, right? We can plant those seeds. And when we do, again, we're telling universal consciousness, this is who I am, this is how I'm showing up, bring it to me. So that's another powerful one, the power of choice. So recognizing, if you read the email yesterday, we're the common denominator in everything we experience. Right? We're the common denominator. So it's our perception, our consciousness through which we experience life. That's really what we're talking about. In creating our own reality, we create the experience of our reality. It's not necessarily that we create the things and the pieces and parts of it, but how we experience that is through our own consciousness. It's like that old saying, wherever you go, there you are. Yeah. So my invitation to us this week is to notice any areas of your life that are not joy-filled, fulfilling experiences, and let's change it. Let's change it. Let's change that experience to the magnificence of life that you are. So I've got 4 final quick points for us. Be willing. Let go of your resistance. Be willing. Let go of what limits you. Those old stories and old ideas, let them go. Let them go. Embody new and empowering thoughts and actions. Take on some new stories. Frankly, you made up the old one, make up a new one. And tell the universe that you are worthy, ready, and receptive. The table is set and your candles are lit. Let's take this into prayer. So how very good it is to recognize that we are in the one, that there is only one life, one mind, one heart, and that one life is God. And all of that is present here now, in, through, and as me and each and every one of us that's in this room. For we are manifestations of the one. We are spirit in form. We are the substance of God. And as such, I speak my word for and about each one of us this day, knowing, claiming, and accepting the divine revelation of spirit, the divine revelation of truth through each one of us. As we anchor in these truths and this become willing and receptive to that higher truth that lives within each one of us, allowing it to have its way through us as that divine urge and that infinite intelligence and wisdom to express the bigger, bolder life that is anxious to come forward through each one of us. And I know that that is gloriously unfolding through us now as we are willing and receptive. So I am just so grateful for this truth, for this manifestation, for all that has been revealed here this day. And I just place this into the action of law, knowing that it's already done. The table is set. The candles are lit. and we await with great expectancy its manifestation. And so it is.